Game day tomorrow afternoon for the Buffalo Bills. They'll have preseason game number 2. They'll be at the Cleveland Browns. Kickoff is at 1 p.m. and pregame right here on WGR. We'll get going at 11 a.m. and then during the game, coming out as our Buffalo football gamecast. We'll get started right at kickoff at 1 over on our YouTube channel, WGR Sports Radio 550. No official word yet on if the starters are going to play tomorrow, and we likely won't find out until closer to kickoff again tomorrow afternoon. But based on comments made by both head coaches, yesterday's joint practice could very well have been the action the starters would see. And for more on yesterday, Sal Capaccio has a piece up at our website, WGR550.com. There are 3 games tonight, and there is an expectation to have plenty of starters playing this evening at 7 p.m. The Jets are at Pittsburgh. Geno Smith will get the start for the Jets, while Pittsburgh is going to have Will Howard under center to start. 7:30, Bryce Young gets another go with Carolina starters. They're taking on Jacksonville, but for the Jags, it has not yet been announced if Trevor Lawrence will get the go tonight. And then at 9, both the Packers and Broncos will have their starting quarterbacks play, at least to some extent. Soccer fans, the Premier League gets back underway today. Defending champs Arsenal open their season against newly promoted Coventry City. That game is getting underway as we speak. And then in baseball, Bison's home to the Iron Pigs. First pitch tonight at 6:35. And in the majors, the Yankees host the Blue Jays just after 7. And at 7:40, the Mets are at the Chicago White Sox. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
My dad's not here right now. He's still at work. So I'm going to blast him.
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
I'm going to see if there's a clean version so that my parents and the people at my school will not get mad at me. We've got the spritzer filled with water just in case if stuff gets too fire. I'm going to set up the speaker and I'm going to listen to
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
I think this is the best
Mike Schopp
feature that I've heard in a long time. I think his flow is really good in it, and I like his aggressiveness on it, and
the Bulldog.
Put not enough effort in it. I think overall his flow was good, but I don't like that mobile rapping. That was my review of
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Didn't need the spritzer. Wasn't fire enough. No spritzer for you. No spritzer.
Hi there. Happy Friday. Beautiful day. Sammy P coming up. That's always a ride, and I mean that in the nicest possible way. Ian Hartitz today. Now with RotoWire. RotoWire guests will be along with us every Friday here through the football season. Maybe not in the next couple of weeks, but once we get going in the regular season at least. And Ian is one of these guys I've listened to and read and followed and gotten to know over the last decade or so. And just to sort of brace myself for it or, kind of get me to a point where I'll be ready to, jab with him. One of the first things I ever remember about Ian is, in terms of fantasy football, his wanting to ban kickers. He hates kickers. Maybe he's changed, maybe he's softened on this. I don't know, but it's one thing I think of when I think of him is that he's had a crusade against kickers in fantasy football. How do you like my new headphones, by the way? I feel like I'm just going to want to do this a lot just to make the noise and keep people guessing, but probably shouldn't distract myself. So, yeah, Ian has been very anti-kicker, and I don't agree with him. And I think, as we get in, here's Brad, not here today. He's off to Saratoga for his thing, and people are drafting all the time. I would just say that it's not like fantasy football needs kickers to breathe, but it's almost like the crusade against them, and I'll give Ian his chance to speak on this later if he wants to, is that it's too random. And I always say, well, what is the rest of it? Isn't the rest of it all pretty random too? I mean, I would tell you, if you were to ask my advice, I was on in Pittsburgh the other night and answering questions like this. I think you can pretty much auto-draft the first 4 rounds of your draft, or at least the first 2, and really not have any problem. You're going to have some default ranking that's going to have guys in almost the same order no matter what the website is or the app is. And I don't think it really matters that much. I mean, it matters. Ultimately, it matters. But I don't think it's that important to get like Jonathan Taylor over Christian McCaffrey or JSN over Amon-Ra St. Brown. I don't think we can know the difference right now. So just kind of let the first few rounds of the draft go, and then you got to sort of get to work and make sure you don't get caught anywhere. Guys on the same team that you don't want, bye weeks maybe, too much of an imbalance, one position over another. But I love kickers. What's different about kickers that makes it a little bit maybe more in Ian's direction, if he's again still on that spot, is how much more makeable field goals are from distance. And whether this is a fantasy point, doesn't have to be. This can be just a point about the NFL these days, is just think about, you probably have, unless you're a really well-adjusted person that doesn't think about these things, maybe you're that person. But you're listening to me right now, so, I mean, odds are kind of maybe not great. Think about how easy it is for NFL teams, now especially that they have made field position easier because of the kickoff rule changes in the last couple of years. They want kickoff returns, but they don't want anybody to die. So now we've got everybody upfield, to make the play for the kicking team. We don't want a 40, 50-yard head of steam and then you just get blasted and have a concussion, to deal with. So they've tried to find this middle ground where we want to incentivize kicking the ball in the field of play, but also not have these more violent collisions. So, okay, well, I get to my 30-yard line, and in 3 plays, or maybe better put in terms of yards, in 30 yards, from my 30 to your 40, I am, pretty much in field goal range. If I get stuck, if it's 4th and 10 at your 40, and I have one of the top 10 kickers in the league or even top 20, that's my decision, is a field goal. And really, that has really changed football strategy. It's changed win probability stuff, game decisions. If I can expect, not that I'll make every one, but if I can expect to score from your 40, your 35 especially, but maybe even the 40 these days, or even the 45, then that just changes a lot about how I want to play. So there's that side of it, like the actual football strategy side of it, and like the game itself. In terms of fantasy, a lot of websites are going to give you extra points for any field goal longer than 30 yards. So the traditional 3 points for a field goal is there. But I'll get, on a lot of sites, I'll get 5 for a 50-yarder and 6 for a 60-yarder, or even if there are bonuses, more than that. And, of course, that's more than a touchdown is worth. So would I rather have Brandon Aubrey than Derrick Henry? Well, no, I wouldn't draft Brandon Aubrey in the 2nd round where Derrick Henry goes. But, I feel like kickers, and maybe this is sort of a strike against the argument for having the position in the game, their value is more increased. And maybe that means, I think logically, yes, that means more importance on who your kicker is in that way. This would be true in real football too. Like if I don't have somebody, whether it's Tyler Bass, with the Bills as it's been, or someone else, if I don't have somebody that can at least be plausible as somebody that can make from like 55, then I probably should have somebody else. Because, if I'm playing against you, this is now back on the field, not in fantasy, but if I'm playing against the Bills and I don't think their kicker can make for more than 50 yards out, that could change how I play defense on the 3rd down play or whatever it is. So I'm not just going to talk about I'm not going to talk about this any longer. And I'm certainly not going to talk about it for the entire hour, setting up Ian so Ian can come on and say, like, yeah, no, I don't really care about that anymore, because that would be a big anticlimax. But I am I'm always looking forward to talking to him, and that's one thing I think about when I think about Ian and I have friends like this too, like banned kickers. I say don't. You're worried about it about fantasy football being too random. Well, it's already pretty random. So, live with it, I say. Sammy P. So when we get to Friday, especially during football season, I like the idea of talking about some of the topics that he'll be interested in. And this time of year, as was the case last week, Bulldog was off last week too. It was just Sam and I. And we talked about some awards bets or stat leaders, that kind of thing. And so we may do more of that today. I know we'll talk a little college football today with Sam coming up in about 20 minutes. But one thing I've enjoyed and also enjoyed doing with Bulldog in this kind of realm is division winner parlays. And I thought maybe here with you, I would just try to put one together and see what we can come up with. I've already got 4 of my own and then 10 more, all almost certainly doomed to lose with relatives at a party that I went to. I have talked about it a couple of months ago, where we all put our heads together and everybody threw in $10 and we built 10 8-team division winning parlays. I want to look at the odds now and talk about it here with you and then see what a parlay might look like that makes sense. Because the odds have changed in some cases quite a bit since June, say. AFC East, of course, why not start there? I'm using DraftKings for this. Bills minus 136, New England plus 125. All we care about here is first place. The Jets plus 1,900 and the Dolphins plus 4,000. So that means $10 on Miami to win the AFC East would win 400, or $100 would win 4,000. If you think that's, pretty steep, Arizona is plus 10,000. So $10 on Arizona wins $1,000 if they actually win NFC West. It almost feels like it should be more than that. But let's start with the favorites across the board and see what that would pay. Some are minus money like the Bills, some are plus. So $10 on the 8 favorites to win their divisions would pay $5,615.62. Yes, that seems like, you're not betting on any upsets here, any underdogs. You're playing the chalk. You're playing all the favorites. No, all the favorites never win, right? You can't expect all the favorites to win. With the NFL, I don't actually know if this has changed much in the last, say, 5 years or so. But we always had this thing for a long time in the NFL where at least in one division, especially when there are only 4 teams, like is the case now and has been for a long time actually, at least in one division, last year's last place team gets to first. So if we want to play the 8 favorites, Buffalo, Baltimore, Houston, Kansas City, Philadelphia, Detroit, Tampa Bay, and the Rams, $10 would win us $5,615. What else it would win us, other than really good money, is kind of a scoreboard flex, which is why would you not bet on the favorites? So we could have that too. But I don't want to bet 8 favorites because that's boring and uninspiring. Buffalo minus 136. The Bills are, wait for it, the Bills are the biggest favorite of any team in any division right now. Second would be the Ravens, minus 112. Third would be the Rams, minus 105. Everybody else is plus money. Houston, in order. Houston, Philadelphia, Kansas City, Detroit, and Tampa are tied. Detroit and Tampa are the biggest odds, I never know how to put it, among favorites in their respective divisions at plus 170. So what do we want to do to mix this up a little bit? Well, let's leave the Bills for now, but they are the chalkiest. How about that, actually? This might be my new favorite way of illustrating how the Bills are seen in the league. After all these years, and whatever has been said and written about their playoff losses, no team in the NFL right now is a bigger division favorite than are the Bills. And they're not even the defending champions. New England plus 125. I think if I weren't here with you right now, I might pivot to New England because, I mean, no respect, right? I do want to come off Kansas City. Even though plus 160 is a good number for a division favorite, it's one of the highest, and it's the Chiefs. I want to come off them and just see what it does to our payout. So if we take the Chiefs and instead go Chargers, the 5,600 becomes 6,200. If we then go Denver, it becomes $7,000 at plus 225. So let's make it Denver right now. The Bengals seem like an easy one here. So I mentioned yesterday, even though I never got into it, watching Aaron Schott's podcast with Mike Tanier. Mike was on with me on Wednesday. And they were talking about the AFC North and sizing up each team. One, just as an aside, I guess, one I thought interesting takeaway from those guys, using numbers, using their DVOA, and also both of those guys have a lot of, they can speak this betting language too. And Aaron Schatz said that he was surprised Baltimore didn't look better by their data than they did. They were like a 9-point-something average wins team based on all his simulations, however he goes about his stuff, his algorithms, and then 60-some% to make the playoffs. And the Bengals were like right there next to Baltimore. Yet, in the odds, Baltimore comes in minus 112, Cincinnati plus 184. Cincinnati is a much better bet than Baltimore by these odds. So we're going to flip that. Now our 7,000 payout becomes 10,500 by going from the Ravens to the Bengals. All right, 5 figures. Now we're starting to talk a little bit here. Now we're cooking. Do we want to flip Houston to Jacksonville? We haven't done anything crazy yet. All we've done is take Cincinnati and move them in for Baltimore as the Bengals. I mean, the Bengals are favored in 15 of 17 games. I don't think there's anything that exciting or, there's nothing about that says no to me. So Cincinnati, and then we've gone to Denver. If we go back to Kansas City, we're at 8,400. We're going to go back to Denver. So 10,500. Do we want to go from Houston to Jacksonville? I have liked Jacksonville more, but then, again, I'll use Aaron Schatz. Warren Sharp has been tweeting about the Texans. Sal and I were talking about that this week. Bills and Texans week 1, that Houston might be as good as anybody. I watched them last night. I mean, it's the preseason. Stroud played a little bit. What was there to say? They got a pick 6 and basically whatever. It's irrelevant to this exercise. If we go from Houston to Jacksonville, our 10,000 becomes 17,000. All right? We're going to do that for now, and then we'll look at the NFC here. So we're still on the 4 NFC favorites. You can do this, by the way. Hopefully you are. Maybe, just if it interests you on your own favorite betting app. In the NFC right now, we have the 4 favorites: Philadelphia, Detroit, Tampa, and the Rams. I didn't want all 8 favorites, but I don't want only one either. So I want to keep a couple where they are. And I'm definitely not messing around with Carolina in the NFC South. I'm betting all the unders on Carolina, but I'm interested in New Orleans. And Tampa, I mean, how funny is it to have Baker Mayfield talking about shocking the world by winning, not by losing? What would be the most surprising season for Tampa? If they finished last, not if they finished first. Someone tell Baker Mayfield that they're actually the betting favorite in that division. I'm moving to New Orleans here. So instead of our 17,000 for $10, now we're up to 23. All right. It's getting good, people. 23,700, by the way. $10.82. Don't forget that. Don't forget that 3% cash back from your credit card. If I'm not going to forget that, if I'm going to use my credit card, a certain one, so I get 9 cents back in my account from buying a vitamin water, my 3% for a $3 drink, I'm definitely not sleeping on this 82 cents. So now we are Buffalo, Cincinnati, Jacksonville, Denver, New Orleans, Philadelphia, Detroit, and the Rams. I want to keep the Rams. Everybody loves them. The pressure against the Rams is that you have the defending Super Bowl champion in their division. I don't care. I want to keep LA at -105. I think that's like a perfectly, I think betting them just straight is fine, even though they're the favorite and minus money. I mean, Seattle's good. San Francisco even maybe, but all their age and their injuries, that could make them a little bit of a stealth pick, but I want to stay with the Rams, which leaves us the NFC East and the NFC North. Do we want to get crazy at all here? Or just a little bit off the favorites is all we would maybe want to do. NFC East, Philadelphia +120, Dallas +205, Washington +500, no. Giants +600, no. I want to move to Dallas. So we're going to take Philadelphia off and add Dallas, and we are up to $32,000 here, people. $32,871.82. The same 82 cents. They love to pay you 82 cents. Well, they don't necessarily, they're not necessarily going to pay us anything. But that's what comes up. So all that's left is the NFC North. And this one, I think you can almost do anything you want. This is like that fantasy point I made 15 minutes ago, where just auto it. McCaffrey, Taylor, Cook, Smith and Jigba, St. Brown, Nakua. Just kind of auto it. Get who you get, and then do the rest after that, which I'm not interested in making 4 bets here, so I have to pick one. Can you talk yourself into Minnesota? I'll get back to them. Detroit +170. It's too competitive a division on paper for me to want to use the favorite. Green Bay +225. Does Green Bay, this Green Bay, Jordan Love, Matt LaFleur, do they ever really deliver? They're a good team. They're like a little bit the Bills, but below, where they've been a good team that in the end hasn't gotten it done. What about the Bears? All their talk. Won it last year, just like Denver. We talked about Denver with our guest Ben Albright yesterday. Here's Denver last year, 14 wins, yet third choice in their division. Not a ton of respect there. The Bears are the same thing. They didn't win 14 games, but they won the NFC North. They won a playoff game right there with the Rams in the second round. Let's do it. Off Detroit, Chicago. Now we've gone from 32,000 to 49,000. From the Lions to the Bears. What's the actual difference? Are the Lions really that much more likely to win the NFC North than Chicago, which won it last year? By the way, with these, if you ever get close, where you've got 5 or 6 that look like you've got it as you get toward the end of the season, and then a couple that are close, you can end up making other bets to help yourself, to hedge, basically. I just went from 32,000 to 49 by going from Detroit to Chicago. Last point, before we break and then bring Sam Panayotovich on. Minnesota at 510, is that nuts? It's almost nuts, right? Let me just see the number. From 49,000, we come off the Bears, we had the Vikings, now we're to 74. We added 50%. I'm just going to do that. We added 50% more profit by getting off Chicago and going to Minnesota. What were we when we had Detroit? I mean, some number in the 20s. Now we've tripled that by going to I'm just going to do that. All right. You were here. That's our bet. Buffalo, Cincinnati, Jacksonville, Denver. We've got the Bills, who, again, are the biggest favorite of any team in any division right now. This is DraftKings. Dallas, I like that a lot. Defense is thought to be a lot better. Philadelphia, vibes are weird. New Orleans, why not? Rams, big favorite overall. And then the Vikings. Maybe I've gotten too cute with Minnesota here in the last minute. But we'll see if our $10 can't win us $74,000. And you can, or I will, at least, if it's possible, relive this monologue in the Odyssey app someday, on-demand audio. All right, that's our move. Sam Panayotovich next. Ian Hartitz today. Brian Koziol as well. We'll talk some Sabres and some golf with Brian in the 5 o'clock hour. Thanks for joining me. Bulldog back Monday. This is Mike Schopp on WGR.
For more comfort.
Now's the perfect time to make yourself comfortable with a new electric heating and cooling system from Belknap.
In Western New York, summer and winter bring extreme temperature conditions. Make yourself comfortable with Mitsubishi electric heat pumps, designed to keep your home cool in the summer and warm in the winter, no matter how hot or cold it gets outside. Call Belknap today to learn more.
I'm Gary Garfel, president of Belknap. We work on your schedule. We don't charge more for weekends and evenings. That's why we say,
Give Belknap a ring.
And he comes back over the middle, and he's picked off. Woodaz, the rookie. Mendoza trying to track him down and cannot. Pick six.
Raiders and Texans last night. The player there, Wade Woodaz. What a name. In the spirit of so many college players seemingly tweaking their name pronunciations as they get to the NFL, this player's a rookie. You got to change that to Woodaz, I think. Let's just live a little here. Wade Woodaz. I watched some of it. I had the Raiders. I thought the Texans starters weren't supposed to play. Stroud right down the field. Woody Marks. I mean, I don't know if he's going to be that relevant, but 7-0, and then Raiders come back the other way. Mike Washington, by the way, kind of a story of the preseason, gets brought down after a big run. Then you had that, and then it's pretty much over, 14-0. Wade Woodaz. We're sticking with that? Why Devon Achane ever had to move off of A-Chain, way cooler, I don't know. Now we've got Trevor too, but Travis and Trevor Etienne, who are now they're calling it closer to Achane. I'm thinking it's more like Etienne. I have my pronunciation hang-ups. Enough about that. Here's an easy name to say. Sam Panayotovich with us on the West Her hotline. Well, I was thinking this way last week, and I haven't heard different today. Have you settled at all since a few weeks here of running around like a crazy person?
Well, I have breaking news, if I may, Mike.
Please.
I was going to, as glasses guys, you know this, we don't have a cloth. We usually just use our shirt or our polo, whatever we're wearing. So I went to clean a smudge off the glasses about 3 hours ago at work, and the glasses cracked right down the middle. So the backup pair is in the moving truck that is still barreling from Boston to Chicago. So I'm going black tape over the glasses for the next couple of days, I guess. Just a fantastic start to a Friday.
Better than going without the glasses. You can't go without the glasses, so you're going black tape.
I can't see without the glasses, Mike, and I don't have contacts because I can't touch my eye. I was at the doctor many years ago, and it's a funny story, actually. I was sitting there in the chair, and they go, "We'll touch your eye." And I can't because my reflexes are very, very strong. So they had the doctor and the doctor assistant holding my arms down in the chair while I tried to touch my eye with the other eye. And I'm like, unless you two come over to my house every morning, this is not going to fly.
Absolute torture.
I'm like, if you're both going to come assist me every morning to put my contacts in and take my contacts out, that's fine. But if you watch Fox Chicago tonight, you will see a piece of black tape over the crown that holds both sets together. So it's a wonderful life, Mike.
Come on, that's a major market. They don't have stacks of glasses in the back for these kind of situations. I mean, I don't know if you're nearsighted or farsighted or what, but they've got to have some sort of other plan for you than the black tape plan, I would hope. No?
Well, we tried the Gorilla Glue, and it wouldn't connect because it was a clean break right down the middle. So then we did the black tape and then sort of created a cocoon and then jammed the Gorilla Glue inside. Nobody outside of this conversation cares, but yeah, that's where we're at today, Mike.
Maybe, but I'm riveted, so I don't know if that's true. How tough a shape are you in without the glasses? Like how bad is it?
Oh, God, I couldn't tell the difference between a male and a female without glasses.
So, I mean, you're a young guy. This has probably been true most of your life.
Yes.
I had the 20/20 thing for most of my life, and I ended up I don't know if it was my primary or even, it wasn't an eye doctor yet because I didn't have one. And somebody said, when you turn 50, it's inevitable. You will need glasses. I'm like, well, I never heard that before. I thought I had great vision. I thought it was like sort of losing your hair. Like, maybe I won't. So there it was, right when I turned 50. So like 5 years ago, okay, yeah, I really can't see anymore. And I'm on the stream on Tuesday night, Sam, for ADP chasing. And sometimes I will just because I have to sort of tilt my head to read the screen the way my setup works, and I'll just take them off because it's the same thing. If I don't do this with my glasses, I won't see them. I won't see the screen anyway. So yeah, I need them too to be able to read. And my wife is the opposite. I can't borrow her glasses because she takes hers off to read. How about that craziness?
Yeah. So I'm sort of cooked, and there's a really good chance because I'm anchoring tonight at 5:00. So there's a really good chance that mid-read, the one side of the glasses slides out of the Gorilla Glued cocoon, and I am not sure what I'm going to do. And I don't know if you saw the video of me last week doing the beer bong. Like, I don't have a beer bong to bail me out for humor. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, you got to come up with something. I'll try to keep this relatively short so you have time to make contingency plans. What, betting-wise, what's on your mind right now? Last week we did NFL stat leaders. I just ran through another 8-team division winner parlay. That's really fun. You can get to some big numbers pretty easily without betting too many real long shots. I didn't even try your Tennessee Titans when I did this exercise a few minutes ago, but, maybe I'll go back to it. Football, pro or college, baseball, Premier League, where are you focused?
Well, I'm gobbling up Arch Manning stock left and right, and I think that there's still, for those of you driving around, well, then again, you can't even bet the Heisman in New York, can you?
No.
Oh, bummer. I personally, though, keep adding Arch Manning at anything north of 8-1 to win the Heisman Trophy. Of course, he's the nephew of Peyton and Eli, and he was the consensus favorite this time last year. And I remember I was in Vegas for Bet Bash, and one of the casinos in Vegas had him at plus 550. And I thought, that's just never going to get my money because he's never really been a full-time starter. He started a couple games, I think, when Quinn Ewers got hurt the year before, but he was coming in as the starter. And I thought, I'm never betting that at plus 550. And most books like DraftKings, FanDuel, BetMGM had about 6-1, 6.25. And he struggled early, as one does in the SEC, right? And they started against Ohio State, and He was not ready. And it was a tough early part of the season, but he got really good at the end. And go look at Arch Manning's box score down the stretch. So you have the full season of seasoning. You have a better offensive line. You have better wide receivers via the portal. And you have a year under the system. So he's a better quarterback on a better team. And guess what? There's an 8-1. There's a plus 850 at FanDuel. What am I missing? I get the same player who's better, more seasoned, and I get $2.50 more. Rather than 6-1 last summer, now I get plus 800, plus 850. What am I missing?
Well, there is an answer to that, right? I don't know what it is. What is it? Is it another player? Another player's in a better situation as well? What is the reason for that?
Well, C.J. Carr is favored. He's the Notre Dame quarterback who many are saying could be a first overall pick, but so could Arch. And Carr's really good. He was a stud last year as a freshman, took Notre Dame to a position where they probably should have gotten in the playoff. My thing, though, is, Carr is great. Arch is great. Manning faces the toughest schedule in the country. You ask a bookmaker who's got the toughest schedule. The answer is Texas, 8 out of 10 guys. So if they go 10-2, make the playoff at Texas, he's winning the Heisman. And he's a dual threat guy, right? He can throw, he can run, he can throw on the run. He's a really special player. And I think, the name does everything. I think it's a really good bet to make right now. And understand, I'm not somebody who says this every summer. Oh, let's bet the guy near the top of the board. Like usually when I bet the Heisman, I'm looking 20-1, 30-1, 40-1. I want to find the guy that the market isn't up on, or maybe, isn't fully grasping how good they could be. I've never been a guy to bet somebody near the top. So Carr is 7-1. Arch is like 8-1, 850. I'm betting Arch because I think he's going to come out gangbusters, and I think there's a good chance by October he's 3-1 or 4-1. Now understand, the favorite, the Heisman favorite in the summer has not won since Marcus Mariota. That's over 10 years ago. Now, Arch technically is not the favorite. He's the second favorite, but that's where I'm at. And I know Zach Jones, your producer, I know him hearing me talk about that, it probably excites him a bit, but it also probably terrifies him a bit because now I'm throwing this into the atmosphere.
Well, it's good that he's not the favorite, at least, for that streak. What about teams and whether that's the playoff or the national championship? Are you going likewise with Texas or what?
No, I don't like Texas to win the whole thing. The playoff is so weird because, these teams that have great regular seasons, and I think Texas will be just fine. These teams that have a bye in the playoff, man, are 1-7 in the playoff. Isn't that crazy? Including, I believe, the first year of the playoff where every team that had a bye lost. So it's tough to sort of navigate the playoff given the new, 12-team format and the teams all getting the bye. So here's a team that I really do like this year, though, and you can get plus money on this over. It's the Minnesota Golden Gophers.
What?
I know. I know. Only on Schopp and the Bulldog will you hear this, I promise. We're not here talking about
You have
LSU
your glasses on?
Yeah, my glasses are on and they're taped.
Okay.
I know everybody wants to talk about Oregon and Ohio State and Texas and you name it. Minnesota's going to win 8 or 9 games this year, and their win total is 6.5. Depending on the book, it's either plus 25, plus 130, or plus 132 to go over that 6.5. We need 7 wins. I think they're going to get 8 or 9. The schedule is very doable. They have a swing game against Mississippi State week number 2, which I think they're going to win. And they are one of 12 teams in the country that bring back head coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and the starting quarterback. There's a ton of stability there. They also have a guy named Anthony Smith who might be the best defensive end in the Big Ten, just a monster in terms of getting at the quarterback. He led the Big Ten in sacks last year. So there's a lot to like there. I saw P.J. Fleck at Big Ten Media Day here in Chicago. They are very, very optimistic about this season. And here's the list of teams, by the way. 12 teams, like I said, head coach, OC,
Wow.
DC, quarterback. Arizona, Boise State, Charlotte, Delaware, Florida Atlantic, Georgia, Houston, Minnesota, NC State, New Mexico, Notre Dame, Oklahoma. Those are 12 teams. Because of everything they bring back, I will look to bet individually as well in the first couple of weeks of the season.
How crazy is it that there are only 12 such teams? It's just like it's 4 positions. Everybody's running around. These are not even the players except for quarterback. And still, there's that kind of craziness there. Minnesota, September 3rd, so 2 weeks from maybe tomorrow, they open with Eastern Illinois, minus 43.5.
I'd probably lay it before I take it, but I did not get invested yet. I'll tell you the one bet I am going to make. I'm going to take, we were talking about this on Bear Bets, Oklahoma plays UTEP. That's the first, I believe it's week 1, not week 0. And with a total of 49, the spread is 42. So they're basically saying
45.5 to 3.5.
Well, here's what's going to happen. It's going to be 45-0, and UTEP will have the ball at the 3-yard line with 2 seconds to go.
Let's go.
And they're going to throw a fade into the corner. We're going to need some backup to slip on a banana peel at Oklahoma. But they're going to, at that point, they're going to be craving the shutout. That's exactly what's going to happen. You know it, and I know it. We're going to need a touchdown on the final play.
It's almost here. All this excitement is almost here. Next week there are games. Did you happen to take note of St. Louis Cincinnati yesterday in baseball?
I didn't see a single pitch. What happened?
Sam, it's 4-0 Cardinals into the 7th. I said the 7th. It might have been the 6th. 4-0 Cardinals at the Reds. Reds get 5 in the inning. Top of the 9th, 2 out, 2 on. Reds up 5-4. Dropped fly ball for 2 runs. St. Louis gets 4 more. 10-5. Cincinnati gets 4 back. Loads the bases, flies out to the wall to end it.
Oh.
And I was thinking about a minus 1.5 better on St. Louis. Just like, we got it, we're dead, we got it, we lost. One of those kind of games that you might more often see in other sports. But that was kind of a tough one for that person. If you could get St. Louis minus 1.5 yesterday, probably could.
I have no issue with people betting baseball. I think watching baseball, especially when you have a bet on it, is terrifying. And one of my buddies, Nick Bogdanovich, who's worked in Vegas for decades, he famously gave the line on a radio show once. He said, if you want to bet and watch baseball, I just combined bet and watch to betch.
Yep.
If you'd like to betch baseball, Mike, you need a bottle of whiskey and a revolver. And I thought, well, maybe that's a little dramatic, but maybe. Man, I mean, the swings in baseball games sometimes, man, they're unfathomable.
I don't even really know why I did it, but I had Neto to hit a home run last night, and he did. And he drove in 7 runs, which I didn't have over 6.5 RBIs, if that was even something you could get. But
you're about that action, Mike. That's what it's all about. By the way,
I am.
By the way, guess what happens this weekend for us?
Oh, wow. The White Sox and the Mets?
Well, the White Sox are on 66.
Oh.
I imagine either tonight, tomorrow, or Sunday, We're going to get that 67th win, and I have a bunch of people from WGR that are messaging me every time the White Sox win because we need one more win to get over that win total. What a horrible number that was in Vegas. 66.5. They're going to get there this weekend.
Awesome. All I have is the playoffs at 20 to win 250.
That's a good bet, Mike. I mean, you're
pretty good.
You're favored to get there. You're favored to win the division right now. They should get there.
Huge favorite. All right, Sam, anything else? I mean, good luck with your glasses. How long was this going to take to get the next ones?
Ironically enough, my eye insurance hasn't kicked in yet with the new job. So that'll be fun to go get an eye exam because I can't take an old eye exam to get a new pair of glasses. So it's a whole cluster. I can't wait to see how this unfolds.
It could be kind of funny if intentionally you sat down to do your sports report and couldn't see and just sort of winged it. I don't know if your boss would like it or find it amusing, but if you meant to do it, it might be funny. Hey, my glasses just broke.
I assure you I did not. I need these to survive.
All right. Thanks for today. Enjoy your weekend. Bulldog back with me next week as we get closer to real games.
Fantastic. Good to talk to you, Mike.
You too, Sam. Sam Panayotovich on the Wester Hotline, Fox, Chicago. 3 games tonight in the preseason. Jets, Steelers, Panthers, Jaguars, and Packers, Broncos. 2 last night. I saw some of the Raiders. That pick 6 play. Woodaz. Come on. Let's fix that. And then Dejon Stribling for San Francisco. That's a fantasy question for our next guest, Ian Hartitz, no doubt. What are we going to do with Dejon Stribling? Pick 33, just like Keon Coleman. 2 years ago, San Francisco, that was not a name. We talk about wide receiver before drafts in here every day. We never got to Dejon Stribling, but in the preseason so far, he's been killer. So that and more from Ian Hartitz coming up in about 16 minutes. I'm Mike Schopp. Thanks for listening. This is WGR. What about baseball futures? You mentioned the White Sox, I think maybe last week when you were on. You're a White Sox fan, by the way, if that matters. Probably doesn't. But you like them to clear their number. What else are you thinking baseball-wise?
So I did actually I did make a drive yesterday. I bet some White Sox to win the AL Central at 40 to 1. That number's gone. I talked to a lot of guys in Vegas for my job, and 2 of the bigger wise guy casinos in Vegas, they have a market up on this stuff too, and every book has a different price. So the Westgate has the White Sox at 21 to 1, and then Circa has them at 23 to 1. So if those respected books that take money from winning players, if they're at 21 and 23, I'm betting the 40. I don't even care what it is. It's just a numerical edge. So that number's like 35 and 30 now across the market.
Sam just tweeted a picture of his glasses. He's going to be fine. The frames are black. The rims are black, so it's not going to really even be noticeable. So stop your worrying out there, you. Bison's home to Lehigh Valley again. They've lost each game so far in this series, but nice night, 6:35. So check the Bisons out. It's getting late. Blue Jays home to the Yankees later. I need to break again. Ian Hartitz from RotoWire now coming up next. Talking some fantasy football. I'm Mike Schopp, and this is WGR.
Game day tomorrow afternoon for the Buffalo Bills as they are at the Cleveland Browns for preseason game number 2. Kickoff is at 1 p.m. and pregame right here on WGR. We'll get going a couple hours before that at 11 a.m. And then during the game, come hang out as our Buffalo football gamecast will get started right at kickoff at 1 over on our YouTube channel, WGR Sports Radio 550. No official word yet on if starters are going to play tomorrow. We likely won't even find out until closer to kickoff. But based on the comments made by both head coaches throughout the week, yesterday's joint practice could very well have been the action the starters would see. And for more on that practice yesterday, Sal Capaccio has a piece up at our website, WGR550.com. Tonight, we have 3 games in the preseason, and it does appear plenty of starters will be playing in these. 7 p.m. sees the Jets at Pittsburgh. New York's going to have Geno Smith start tonight, while Pittsburgh will have Will Howard under center. 7:30, Bryce Young gets another go. Carolina taking on Jacksonville, but for the Jags, they have not yet announced if Trevor Lawrence will go tonight. And then at 9, both the Packers and Broncos will have their starting quarterbacks play to some extent. In baseball, Bison's home to the Iron Pigs. First pitch tonight, just after 6:35. Then in the majors, Yankees host the Blue Jays at 7:05, and at 7:40, the Mets there at the White Sox. That's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
It's Mike Schopp
This guy's a real jerk.
and the Bulldog
I'm sort of anal retentive, OCD kind of whack job.
on WGR.
If I didn't say it, I think I might have. I'm just right with Sammy P about contact lenses. When I went in and started getting used to wearing glasses 5 or so years ago, the doctor, he was great. It's like, well, contacts are pretty easy. So if you want to try it, just here's a sample, see how you feel. I mean, of course, like millions of people wear contacts. I know it's not like some majorly hard, impossible thing to adjust to, but I could never get even close to wanting to do that, to touch my eye with my finger and then have to pinch that thing out of there. It just, not that it would be painful. It just sort of, I cringe at the thought. So I have a box on my bathroom, near my bathroom sink of contacts from that day. And they have never made it as far as into my eyes one time. So I'm with Sam on that. I'm Mike Schopp. Thanks for listening. Bulldog is back on Monday from a lengthy break. He's up in Canada playing golf today. I got pictures. With me now, Ian Hartitz, another golf enthusiast. Ian, so I don't know the state of your game or how much you play, really, but I know we've talked before and you were on the golf course or headed to the golf course. Tomorrow, I am in a tournament. It's the first time this year I'll have hit a ball. And is that really bad?
Sorry about everyone playing on your team, man. Yeah, you got to get some practice swings in. So as one very, very bad golfer, I will say, just when you start to feel good about one piece of the game, everything else kind of tends to fall apart. So I wish I had some advice for you, man. But maybe just pray or just be there and, be ready to have a good time.
That I will do. When I was playing a lot, and then, the season would come and you just want to make sure you want to wake up in the morning and not have there be a frost delay or something, that you're so eager to get out there. And there were a couple times when I did really well without any sort of preparation. It just didn't go to the range, just sort of rolled out of bed and shot in the 80s. And my dad's theory was that's because you watch a lot of golf and you're seeing it done right. And so we'll go with that. I'll watch. I can't play tonight, but I'll watch some golf tonight and see if that helps me tomorrow. How are you?
I don't know how you golf though, with the glasses. I heard your whole contacts red there. As someone who's wore contacts my whole life, I mean, having your glasses flying off your face, or God forbid it rains, and now you got to deal with that. I mean, you're just touching your eye for a second, man. What's the problem?
That's fair. I know. Well, and mine are a little bit loose right now, so that's another thing to think about. Just what I need for tomorrow. How's life at RotoWire?
Life's great, man. Again, love the squad we got going. Just a bunch of people who love football, man. So it's certainly a place where I feel welcome and really excited about all the content, we got growing. So obviously I know Theo's been on the show as well. So just, a bunch of fancy nerds who don't have much else to do in life, then maybe occasionally get 18 in, but otherwise, man, just grind these rankings and grind the content. So love having some actual, football on our television again. Are people probably reacting a little bit, overreacting too much about future first ballot Hall of Famer De'Zhaun Stribling? Probably, but at the same time, we're excited football's back, so what's not to love?
You sent me a list from a tweet you had from Tuesday. Running backs, basically backup running backs by priority if their team's starter just disappeared. And Ray Davis comes in pretty high on this list at number 4. What's your feeling about him as a possible, handcuff to James Cook? That's what he is at best. And just like the strategy with these guys. I mean, I feel like some advice I got a long time ago, I don't want to draft my running back's handcuff. I want to draft yours so that maybe it'll work out that I have 2 starters instead of 1 at best.
I do think that strategy in a bigger tournament where you're needing to be perfect versus, hundreds of thousands of people potentially makes sense. But if you're just kind of doing your 10 or 12 team league with the buddies, I get having your James Cook in round 1 and then Ray Davis in round 15. I don't think you're hurting your overall upside that much in that. But yes, okay, this article, because handcuffs, it's more of an art than science because we're always grappling with, how much standalone value does this guy have, but then how much injury contingent upside does this other guy have? So I wanted to remove kind of that debate from it and just say every starting RB goes on vacation for the entire season because I don't want to imply anyone getting hurt, of course. How we've been ranking the backup running backs. As you said, Ray Davis comes in as the RB4 overall, 1 spot behind Tank Bigsby. But you know what? If you want to go ahead and swap them, I get it. I do think there's similar profiles. Talented dudes that we can believe in. In Tank's case, he's got just great numbers over these past 2 seasons, all the running back metrics we like to look at. And Ray Davis's case, reigning first-team All-Pro kick returner Ray Davis, and he seemingly made the most out of his opportunities over these 2 years, man. We've only had Week 6 in 2024, I believe it was, that Monday night game where we got late notice Cook was out, and then Week 18 last year when he was kind of de facto lead back. Both occasions, though, racked up 23 touches and then really just, again, well north of 100 yards and looked good doing it. So I do think Ty Johnson, once he's healthy with this knee thing, will be taking, some of the pass down work, but really does seem like Ray would be the guy pushing for 20-plus touches and an offense we love. And after that point, man, it's really tough to be overthinking it. So Ray Davis, for my money's worth, again, one of the top pure kind of injury contingent handcuffs in all fantasy football.
A lot of these guys, like Davis, are on teams where whoever you might think of as the number 2 is really not going to be the replacement if there's an injury, whether that's Keaton Mitchell in LA, I think might be an example of that. I mean, some of the RJ Harvey, I talked to Ben Albright from Denver yesterday. He's like, it's Coleman if they lose Dobbins, or when they lose Dobbins. It's maybe not RJ Harvey. You have specialists who are valuable in fantasy, right? I mean, they'll catch the ball. You want that, but are not necessarily the team's RB1 upon an injury.
Yeah, I wonder if that could be the case for Tajay Spears and Dylan Sampson as well. The pass down back who maybe isn't quite big enough, or the coaching staff just doesn't believe in running them, between the tackles enough, so when that starter goes down, their role doesn't even change, and we got to try to figure out who the other guy is going to be. Conveniently in Buffalo, though, it's only a 2-game sample, but hey, we see these backfields evolving all the time. 2-game sample is a lot more than we have across other different situations in the league, so that is part that makes, again, Ray Davis so appealing out there. I will say, if you can, I'm even looking at other backfields. I would say Chicago and then definitely Pittsburgh. Those are the 2 places where I just think it's pretty awesome to try to get either running back. I know Monangai is a little bit banged up now in Chicago, so maybe that's different. But for me, looking at the Steelers, Jalen Warren and Rico Dowdle, we believe in both dudes having that sort of, 3-down ability. It sounds like it's going to be Rico being more the starter, but both guys can work across all 3 downs. And with Caleb Johnson probably being a cut candidate at this point, that's what I'm reading at least.
Yep.
If either one gets injured, we're talking about an immediate RB1 and their snap rate going from 50% to 80 or even 90%. So it reminds me of kind of like the Nick Chubb, Kareem. It's like a middle-class man's version of the Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Cleveland backfields from a few years ago, where you feel decent enough about the guys on a week-to-week basis, but you also have that massive upside if, God forbid, either dude misses time.
This helps me feel a little bit better about a trade I accepted yesterday, where I got on a team that needed a starting running back, an RB2. I got Dowdle and Jaden Reed for none other than Stribling and Chris Bell. And what I did, Ian, and this is, he'd had the one big preseason game, but not the second one yet. What I did was look at I'm sorry, this is a very nerdy fantasy word, but portfolio. And out of 12 dynasty teams, I drafted him 6 times, Stribling. Like, come on, he's picked 33. Like, people don't like him, but San Francisco, and the age there, like, maybe. And so now he's such a hot item. You know what? I needed a running back. I'm going to take this one share of Stribling and move him. And then, I woke up to, he did it again. How high is too high for him right now?
I'm with you where I think I'm in 5 dynasty leagues, and I want to say I got him in at least 3 just because he was sitting there in round 2, and I'm watching, day 3 running backs like Jonah Coleman. And maybe Jonah Coleman's awesome, but just give me the guy who was 1 pick away from going in round 1 for a Kyle Shanahan offense. So it does seem like maybe a little bit too big a hype. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when Isaac Tesla couldn't stop scoring touchdowns in the preseason last year as well. So, again, respect to Stribling. Obviously got strong hands and everything, and it does seem like he's, got the confidence of Brock Purdy, Trent Williams. The Strib Club is provocative. I understand the alert here. I do think on a normal week-to-week basis in the early season, we're not going to feel good about starting this dude. The offense is going to go through Mike Evans, Christian McCaffrey, and George Kittle first and foremost. Now, I did just list 3 guys who certainly have an alarming injury history and are on the wrong side of 30. So I readily admit that Stribling is in one of these cases where, again, an injury to either of those guys will ranking, him much higher in a hurry. So I have a wide receiver 49 right now. He's just outside my top 100. So I've certainly moved him up over the course of the past month or so as we've gotten more good news. And as we've seen him make some plays in the preseason, and the rookie Parasol injury obviously helped matters as well. But I don't know, man. I'm seeing like round 6 potential treatment and stuff, and that's just pretty steep for someone who, again, if the season just goes to plan and the injury guys decide to chill out for once, he's not going to be someone we ever feel great about starting. So I think we're getting a little bit too hyped here, but promising player, and at a minimum, it's just good to see him do this after everyone was balking at that pick and calling it one of the worst ones they've ever seen, 3 or 4 short months ago. Right.
It's another of hundreds of other lessons we really don't know that much about how this is going to go for the zillions of hours spent on, scouting college players. So many times we're taken aback by the ultimate results. With Ian Hartitz of RotoWire, he went, by the way, Stribling in the 8th round of a mid-stakes draft I did last night, and that's before the game happened with San Francisco. One more name of this kind of sort here before we get into some chalkier type topics. Mike Washington, the former UB Bull, is maybe right behind Stribling for his performances so far in the preseason. Vegas running back. You might move him up that list of yours right now if you were to do it over. I don't know, but he looks like a pretty interesting second to Ashton Genty right now.
Yeah, on that list, I can just list it off here because he's not too far down. Travion Henderson came in at number 1 for me, followed by Blake Corum, Tank Bigsby, Ray Davis, Rico Dowdle, Kyle Monungai, Rashad White, Woody Marks, and then RB9 was Mike Washington. I did write this before the game. I don't know that it changes anything for me, though, man. Look, he's a very explosive dude, obviously tested as one of the better athletes we've seen at the position ever, more or less. We got this cool stat called relative athletic score, which takes the guy's height, speed, height, weight, speed, and their agility and their jumps and all that. And I think he's 28th out of over 2,000 dudes since 1987. So he's got, the total package. It's been good to see, the 50-yard run in week 1 and obviously the other nice 30-plus-yard jaunt last night where he showed a little more patience, a little more of that nuance that we want to see from running backs. But it's still an offense that we're hoping for some improvement, but objectively speaking, they're going to be ranked a lot closer to 32 than 1. That's what we're expecting, and that's what Vegas also expects. They have them ranked 28th ahead of 2026. I would like to think that Clint Kubiak can help out that offensive line, but, there's only so much the guy can do, and we did see this very same offensive environment do what we believe to be a very good running back in Ashton Genty last year. And more than anything, man, just the fact that Genty's getting this rest, it tells us who the running back, y'all, is in Vegas, and that is Ashton Genty. So pure handcuff upside, Mike Washington, sign me up. That's great. He's cheap in drafts. I love to just stockpile my bench with handcuffed running backs in fantasy football. We do not need to be balanced with running back and wide receiver. Get your 5 wide receivers in the first 9 rounds. After that, give me all the handcuffed running backs we can handle. I just think expecting, because of a couple big runs, anything close to standalone value or getting off with Ashton Genty because of this now really does seem like an overreaction to me. So promising dude, because let's face it, with the rookies, a lot of times, even if Mike Washington always profiled as the most likely RB2 here, Antonio Williams in Washington, we were wondering if he could be a number 2 wide receiver. I think he was the 6th wide receiver on the field in their first preseason game. So it just happens with rookies. They develop at different, rates, and different coaching staffs have different levels of trust with getting them out there on the field. So all in all, it's a positive development for Mike Washington. But look, I think a month ago, we thought he was going to be the RB2, and we thought he was a big, explosive guy. We've seen that play out, which is great, but Ashton Genty is still that guy, man. I'm not really overall changing my thoughts about Genty being a fine pick at the round 1, round 2 turn just because of 2 nice runs from Mike Washington.
Fair enough. Ian Hartitz of RotoWire. I'm Mike Schopp. Bulldog is off today. So Genty is in a cluster of running backs that kind of all go between the middle of the first round and the middle of the second. McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, James Cook, Genty, Kenneth Walker, Hampton, Chase Brown, Achane. That's 8. I might even be missing one. Barkley is another one.
Yep.
Do you have tiers within that group? Like, is there somebody you want definitely from that group or not at all?
I'm calling it the great wall of RBs that we got, again, stretching off the end of round 1 into round 2. Chase Brown's the guy that I just feel like has more answers than questions when I just go through it. If we had to sit here and draft the top 10 real-life running backs, I don't think Chase Brown is making the list. He's not bad. You don't get 1,300-plus total yards, whoever he's had these past 2 seasons, by being a bad real-life player. But he's fine enough. And, man, we see this every single year, and I think we all readily admit it. Like, running back is the most dependent position on your offensive environment that's out there. Jonathan Taylor last year was a world beater in the first half of the season, and then I think he was the RB22 in the second half, scoring fewer points than Tony Pollard. Not because I think he turned into a bad football player, but because when you swapped out a world-beating Daniel Jones with a literal grandpa and Phillip Rivers, we saw the entire offense go crashing and burning. For Chase Brown, we have 70-catch upside inside a Joe Burrow Bengals-led offense that wouldn't surprise us at all if they lead the league in scoring. His only competition is 31-year-old Samaje Perine and Taj Brooks, so they have not felt comfortable at all putting on the field. And I just think, again, when you start going through the other guys, Jonathan Taylor and Ashton Genty, could be a situation where those offenses are really struggling. Similar something with Devon Achane. Amarian Hampton is someone where I look at the Chargers, is it going to be just him or Keaton Mitchell and Kamani Vidal also going to be very involved? Saquon Barkley, James Cook, I'd probably put them right behind Chase Brown. But as we know, the second those offenses get down the 1-yard line, it's Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts scoring the touchdowns more times than not, and not those guys. Kenneth Walker and Derrick Henry, we just have a little bit more question marks, I would say, about their receiving upside. So, again, for Brown, it's like the one reddish flag for me is just the reality that, okay, he's maybe not the best real-life running back on the planet, but every other issue that I could have, man, he seems to be passing. Contract year, he is my overall RB4 and 8th-ranked player overall in Fantasyland.
Big time. Very good. Do you have any more specific thoughts on Cook? I mean, I've been kind of a don't better when it comes to him, but man, he led the league in touchdown rushes, then he led the league in rushing 2 years in a row with Allen doing all those Allen things. So far so good, and he's been very durable.
And we've gotten the Pete Carmichael, talks about maybe they're going to use him more as a receiving back. And, hey, maybe we don't even need to listen to the talks. Maybe it's just Ty Johnson being banged up and not able to be his usual self there. I will say it's so funny how we talk about running backs coming off these big workload seasons. Like CMC is the only guy that we seemingly have any issues with. I mean, seeing Cook come off of, 385 touches last season, obviously had a pretty big season in 2024. I do wonder if there could be a 2025-esque Saquon season coming for Cook because, let's face it, a lot of his touchdowns last year, I think he had 4 40-plus yarders. That was one of the top highest marks in the league. We've seen him flash the receiving ability, but they haven't exactly leaned into it since 2023. And then it's just a matter of what if the Bills' offense did take a little bit of a step back. Could it be a situation like Saquon last year where he just doesn't have the same amount of opportunities to punch in those touchdowns? Now, the Bills and the Lions at the end of the day have been really the class of the NFL and just consistently scoring so many points year after year for the better part of the last 5-6 years. So all in all, I think I had Cook RB6 overall. I'm not too worried about it. Him and Saquon for me, very similar profiles. But I do think, man, if we're sitting here in week 14, week 15, Bills offense is more good than great. And it's like, oh, man, Cook only scored 6, 7 touchdowns this year, and he's still not getting the receiving work. I can see how it goes a little bit south, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's all fair in my mind. With Ian Hartitz for a couple more minutes here, got to ask you about DJ Moore, the big get by the Bills in the offseason. He's a player that, to my ears, I mean, the fantasy community is not ever that excited about. Maybe that was different 5 years ago, but now it's like people are always kind of just maybe they're bored with him or what. I mean, it's not like last year was a down year. His numbers were not great. But with Justin Fields 2 years before that, they were incredible. What do you think? Like, is he value in late 4, early 5, or what?
Yeah, in some of these home leagues, man, I was looking at the ADP earlier, Sleeper, Yahoo, ESPN. You can even get him in round 6. So I came out with a fade list in earlier August. Let me think. I had Bucky Irving on there. I had Rashee Rice. I had a couple other guys. And DJ Moore was on there. And I kept trying to go through it, and I would get pushed back. And my reasoning is kind of what you talked about, like 2 straight years, declining stats. He got going with Fields in 2023. Okay, fine. But we all believe Ben Johnson is a wizard on offense. Like, why couldn't he figure it out with DJ Moore? Even in a year where Roma Dunze is playing through injury and Luther Burden was, and Colson Loveland weren't even really full-time players for the back half. That's one side of the equation. But more and more, man, I'm not leaving every draft with him, but I have officially been going on like a DJ Moore apology tour, and I am taking away like my fade sort of idea with it because I love Jalen Waddle. I'm buying into Mike Evans, and just thinking about the situations, I was like, are they really that big of a different, changing offenses, looking like the number one there? What's so different about their situation than DJ Moore? And I didn't have a good answer for myself. So, again, trying to learn, here we go, each and every weekend out there. And I just think that with DJ, going round 5, especially in the home league prices, man, because round 4, okay, I'll find someone else I probably want to draft more, but round 6, wide receiver 26, 27 price tag for DJ Moore, really can't be bickering too much about it because, man, him and Terry McLaurin have really been this generation's like Andre Johnson, not in terms of being as great as Andre, like that's, again, an incredible receiver and everything, but DJ and Terry, you just look at their career quarterbacks, and there's been one disaster after another. So it is funny to me, though, because long story short, I think Moore's priced right. If you want to draft him, go right ahead. I kind of prefer Christian Watson and Mike Evans, but if you disagree, I totally get your reasoning. I just think, Mike, it's so funny because the people that are really firmly on one side or the other, it's going to be a hilarious crash out either way it goes. Because on the one hand, you can say, well, this dude was declining. He's 29 years old. Like, what, you thought he was going to do anything in the Buffalo offense that, let's face it, every wide receiver they drafted, traded for, or signed since Stephon Diggs really hasn't worked out. But the other side of the coin is just simply, oh, you faded Josh Allen's clear number 1 wide receiver. You thought that was a good idea? So notice I never brought up the uncovered 30-yard crosser in the preseason because that doesn't matter for me and everything. But I thought it was funny how he kind of waved on the defender. Good to see that sort of, chaotic mindset in the preseason. But, yeah, man, DJ Moore, the Bills needed to add a wide receiver 1, someone that's not Brandon Cooks that we can throw the ball to with the season on the line. And they got DJ Moore, so hope it works out.
Love it. The next point in that back and forth is, do you ever remember the name Gabe Davis when he was, all that, and that really didn't pay off the draft capital that year? Ian,
real quick, like that was kind of like the one thing where because I'm just, I have so much going on in my life that I finished writing about fantasy football all day, and I just started watching football highlights, and I was sitting there watching this YouTube video of the biggest kind of playoff comebacks, of course. Not comebacks, just the best kind of back and forth game. So, of course, the Gabe Davis, Bills-Chiefs game came on, and I'm watching this game just thinking to myself, watching Gabe Davis do this, and I'm like, you can't spend a round 6 on pick on DJ Moore, man. We saw Gabe Davis do this.
Right.
Even be, a wide receiver 3 in Fantasyland 1 year with Stephon Diggs. You can't go out there for DJ Moore. So that was the last straw for me, remembering, the cult hero that was Gabe Davis.
Oh, man, that game. We'll never forget it here. The Bills have to win a championship before we do. 8 for 201 and 4, by the way, for Davis in the 13 seconds game. Ian, last thing. I think it was your first ever show I listened to when you replaced Jeff Ratcliffe, was it, at PFF?
Yeah.
And I was outside and had you on. And I don't know if it was that day, but I was there for your debut. And one of the things I think of when I think of you, I think about your crusade is too strong, maybe, against kickers in fantasy, right? And so today, here I am speaking with you. Today, Twitter now gives you 2 or 3 topics that, supposedly people are talking about. And one of them is fantasy players debate the merits of kickers in leagues, something right, almost like they were speaking to me knowing that which is possibly true. That it might be that good now. I like kickers. Is it too random? It's all pretty random. But are you still kind of militant on this one?
Look, if anyone played high school football, you know what kickers are. They're soccer players that would show up for 15 minutes a week to practice, and when you're running conditioning, they're out, effing around with their friends doing God knows what. So I've always considered them half-breeds when it comes to actually being football players. Are they important in real life? Absolutely. They need to go make those field goals, but, they take 3 steps, they kick a ball, and to pretend like they're heroes after a game getting carried off the field has never quite rubbed me the right way. If you want to, have them in your fantasy league, it's a free country. The one thing I would say, though, let's fix this scoring. Because, Mike, 20 years ago, we used to give regularly standard scoring for passing touchdowns. It'd be 6 points, maybe 5 points. What happened, though? The Peyton Mannings, the Tom Brady's of the world, everyone started throwing for 40, 50 touchdowns. We adjusted to the times, and 4-point passing touchdowns became the norm. 50-yard field goals are simultaneously being attempted more often than ever, and they're being made at a higher rate than ever. And I think it's time to do the same thing for kickers. I do not think they should get more than 3 points for any field goal under 60 yards. There's a phenomenon going on in a lot of those high-stakes leagues that you play in, Mike, where a 41-yard field goal is worth 4.1 fantasy points. A passing touchdown, 6 points in real life, we're only getting 4 points for. I know we get the extra yards, but that's my biggest issue. It's a borderline chip shot being now calculated as more than what we're actually giving guys for a passing touchdown. So I have issues with kickers personally, professionally, and in fantasy-wise. But more than anything, guys, it's just the reality that let's adjust the scoring because, again, I've run these numbers out of spite, and we are seeing more 50-yarders attempted and made than ever. Let's lower those point totals. And also, Mike, I think real-life people would agree, a missed field goal is basically a turnover. So if you miss a field goal in fantasy, take away a point. How's that not fair?
Good argument. I hope I didn't pick a scab. I was talking with my son this morning as the fall sports schedule at his high school is coming up, and we were sort of listing the sports, who's already sort of there and practicing and working out, and something like football, soccer, and somehow that came to the point where he said football and soccer never play on the same day. And I said, why is that? He said, well, the football team might need a soccer player to kick.
And isn't it kind of ridiculous that Brandon Aubrey, like the best kicker in the NFL, is just a dude who unfortunately, couldn't even make it in the MLS? That's his origin story. He was going back to be a consultant or something like that, or working for some financial firm. His wife was watching a football game, saw someone miss a field goal, and she was like, you could do that. And he was like, you know what, I think I could. Got private lessons, and the rest is history. So shout out to Brandon Aubrey, and man, more of those kickers in the MLS. Go take these other dudes' jobs. Why
All
not?
right.
It's apparently that easy.
I'm glad we had the conversation at least once. In future visits, I won't take you there. Thanks for today. Enjoy your weekend, Ian.
Appreciate you, man. You too.
All right. Ian Hart, it's RotoWire on the Wester Hotline. Time for the update and commercial break, 803-0550. We're on fantasy. Maybe you got something to bring up. That's great. I'm always up for that. Lines are open. This is Mike Schopp on WGR.
Afternoon for the Buffalo Bills. They'll be on the road for preseason game number 2 at the Cleveland Browns with kickoff at 1 p.m. Pregame will get underway a couple hours before that right here on WGR at 11. And then during the game, come hang out as our Buffalo football gamecast will get started right at kickoff over on our YouTube channel, WGR Sports Radio 550. No official word yet on if the starters will get any game time tomorrow. We likely won't find out until closer to kickoff. But based on comments made by both head coaches, yesterday's joint practice could very well have been the action the starters would see. And for more on that joint practice yesterday, Sal Capaccio has a piece up at our website, WGR550.com. Staying with the NFL, we've got 3 preseason games tonight, and plenty of starters are expected to see some game action this evening. 7 p.m. sees the Jets at Pittsburgh. Geno Smith does get the start for the Jets, while Pittsburgh will be going with Will Howard under center. 7:30, Bryce Young gets another go. Carolina takes on Jacksonville. The Jags, though, have not yet announced if Trevor Lawrence will get the start. And then at 9 o'clock, both the Packers and Broncos will have their starting quarterbacks play to some extent. And then in baseball, Bison's home versus the Iron Pigs. First pitch at 6:35. While in the majors, Yankees host the Blue Jays at 7:05. And at 7:40, the Mets are at the White Sox. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
I do wonder if there could be a 2025-esque Saquon season coming for Cook because, let's face it, a lot of his touchdowns last year, I think he had 4 40-plus yarders. That was one of the top highest marks in the league. We've seen him flash the receiving ability, but they haven't exactly leaned into it since 2023. And then it's just a matter of what if the Bills' offense did take a little bit of a step back. Could it be a situation like Saquon last year where he just doesn't have the same amount of opportunities to punch in those touchdowns?
Ian Hartitz, so to clarify that comparison a little, Barkley, and look, I'll preface this with, and Ian would say this too, you're not going to rush for 2,000 yards and expect to just sort of do that again. I mean, that would never have been like the expectation for Barkley last year, but in 2024, he led the NFL in not only rushing yards, but attempts, not coincidentally, touches, 2,283 yards from scrimmage. The second time in his career he's gone over 2,000 in that category. He also did it as a rookie for the Giants. There's often been a lot of receiving volume with Barkley that, Cook might aspire to at this point. It's come down from just his one outlier year in that statistic was when he was a rookie. 91 catches as a rookie for the Giants. 721 yards. I mean, you almost take that from DJ Moore this year. More yards. If he's going to have 91 catches, you want more than 721 yards. But Barkley went from 2005 rushing yards and 13 touchdowns to almost like half that, 1140 and 7 last year for the Eagles. And what Ian is saying, and this isn't just a fantasy point, although it's the kind of analysis I think that makes good fantasy players good, is you're not stopping at, oh, this guy's great. Next question. I mean, you want to know, how did he get to those numbers? And what Ian is saying is how Cook, this is a good thing, but it's also among different statistics or features not as sustainable, where he had, the explosive plays last year. He's an explosive player, but, there's some variance year to year on that front. So Barkley, basically, was he the same player? I mean, are people saying that Saquon Barkley is not as good anymore? I don't know. I haven't heard much of that. But 65 fewer carries, 900 fewer yards, 6 fewer touchdowns last year on another good Eagles team. And there's the tush push there, and that's what, and I think Ian said this too, that's what Cook and Barkley have in common that I think just sort of intuitively you might think works against them, in that they have quarterbacks who rush for touchdowns like it's nothing in Hurts and Allen. But it hasn't hurt Cook. I mean, 16 touchdowns 2 years ago. So Ian sort of sounds a little bit pessimistic that Cook comes close to if I'm not misrepresenting him, comes close to the kind of year he's had the last 2 years, through no fault of his own. And I've said it. I mean, I have a tough time clicking the button on Cook when I can get Genty or even Kenneth Walker. I think the Chiefs are, it sounds like, and a lot of people are saying this, ready to shift their philosophy with Mahomes off the injury, with still a kind of shaky wide receiver room like the Bills have had. It's ironic, the Bills and the Chiefs, such great offenses and teams these last many years, both have left at least, if not still leave a lot to be desired in terms of weapons. So here's Kansas City maybe planting a flag, going out and signing the Super Bowl MVP, a running back, big money, we want that. And how do you do that? Why do you do that if you're not prepared to lean into it? I mean, it's not just what they do every other year, which is just go get Kareem Hunt, even though he's kind of terrible now. Just whatever. It's been good enough for the Chiefs. So I like Walker among all those guys, and Chase Brown makes a lot of sense too, which leaves me kind of empty when it comes to Cook in fantasy. Not that the Bills don't have a fine running back who has done a great job for them. I mean, he is no small part. I don't think you need to hear this. I think you already knew this. He's no small part of their success these last couple of years. Is it fair to say that they might have been able to go farther with a different attitude on offense? I think it's a little bit fair. I mean, maybe not last year as much as just in the last 5 years, and Cook hasn't been the lead guy for all of that time. I think, we all, to varying degrees, want to see the Bills be a little bit more, I don't want to say up-tempo, but down the field, try to bigger chunks from their offense. Maybe this will be the year for that. I don't think I mentioned this the other day when I had it in mind. Again, I'll mention Aaron Schatz here, who for ESPN ranked the best teams to not make the Super Bowl over maybe the last 50 years, maybe the entire Super Bowl era. There was a team from the 60s, I think, that made that list, if I remember right. And number one of all teams in Super Bowl history, like Super Bowl era history, the best team by his DVOA metric to not win it all, or not to not even make the Super Bowl, was Baltimore maybe 3 years ago, the year that they crushed everybody and then lost the AFC Championship at home to the Chiefs. And then number 4 on that list, I mentioned this with Mike Tanier the other day, was the Ravens the next year that lost here in the game that Andrews dropped the 2-point conversion and they had the 3 turnovers to lose the game to the Bills. So Baltimore came in as 2 of the top 4 teams in a single season ever to not make the Super Bowl. And the Bills came in at number 8 on that list, if I remember right. Somewhere down a little bit, but still pretty high. And it was the 22 team. And that was only significant to me in that, according to his DVOA, it's the 2022 team that was the best of all of these. And that's not 13 seconds. That's the year after that. That's Hamlin, 22. And the loss to Cincinnati in the second round. It's that team. 13-3, only 16 games because of the canceled game in Cincinnati. And then eventually in the second round, the Bills kind of implode that day in the snow against the Bengals. Can't get stops ever. You've got Diggs screaming at Allen on the sideline. That was the end of that. Or almost, I guess not. I mean, he came back the next year and then was kind of phased out and then traded. But I thought that was interesting. And I'm not sure, I don't know, can you do this easily? Like sort of rank these Bills teams, say the last 5 years against themselves? Like just how would you put them in order? For me, like it's all kind of been, I know it's not one season, but it's one era. Alan McDermott, and not all Diggs, but that would not be an easy challenge or an exercise for me, is to try to rank these last 5 Bills teams. Maybe last year's is second. I don't know. Maybe last year's team could it have been the best of the 5? They were not as good on defense last year, so probably not. And it's the only one of the 5 where they did not win the AFC East, actually, either. But it wasn't because they were bad. I mean, just New England went and outraced them. So I thought that was interesting, as usual, when it comes to Aaron. That's at ESPN.com from earlier this week. Brian Koziol is going to join me at 5. Yep, first ball of the year tomorrow. I kind of, respecting Ian Harditz's point, man, get out there and at least practice for your team's sake. I don't think this is a team that is really expecting big things from itself, from me, from everybody in the group. It's not super competitive. I mean, I say that. I'm pretty sure I'm right. I'm playing with 3 women tomorrow, and that doesn't mean they won't be competitive, but I've played with a couple of these women before, and it's mostly just sort of where's the beer cart kind of day. But I kind of, at this point, now that it's tomorrow, want to just get to tomorrow and hit my first ball off the first tee and see what happens. I mean, what am I going to do? Go tonight? What I've thought about this week, or maybe the last couple weeks, is just sort of chipping golf balls in the yard a little bit, just to sort of get my hands somewhere. When I stopped playing seriously, I was never like playing for money, but 15, 20 years ago, I was playing every week, mornings all the time, club tournaments, that kind of scene. One year I posted 90 rounds, and there's a lot of time on the calendar where you're not even allowed to post your round officially, and times when I'm playing in scrambles. I was just like obsessed with it. And when I cut back on that after my kids came around, and I don't think that I hold this against them, but I started playing less, and then I started playing poorly. And that just got in my head, and I'm like, I'm not enjoying this. I should be doing something else. This is expensive too. Why am I doing it? And, that's a different point. But when I would play after not playing for a long time, where I really struggled was like short game. Not so much putting, but I had no feel around the greens at all. And I don't know if most people would say the same, maybe. Feel like picking up a driver and whacking away. I mean, that I was never a great driver, and I feel like even though I'm playing 5 times a year, if that hasn't been too different. But if I'm not playing on a fairly regular basis, I'm sort of putting my hands in as if I had a golf club in my hand. Around the green, I'm just a mess. So maybe I'll do a little bit of that by tomorrow and give myself some chance of not embarrassing myself. Odds are, though, come on, really, you don't play at all? I think the last golf I played was in this tournament last year. So I'm not expecting too much. Brian at 5, we'll talk mostly Sabres with Brian as we get a little bit closer to training camp. I mean, what is it? They have that prospects event. It's the Bruins this year, back-to-back days, right at the weekend where the Bills open in Houston, that Sunday. So we're that close to games, and then camp is right there, and preseason games are right after that. Mike Schopp here at 803-0550. No Bulldog. He's back on Monday. You're listening to WGR. Mixed feelings about the American League wild card race. I have a mind to rail against this later. I'm not going to rev up here on this, and I don't know if I even really should. But like the Yankees are 9.5 games clear in the wild card. There are 3 wild card spots in each league, and they're almost 10 games clear of missing out on the playoffs. They are, let's see, 4 games behind Tampa Bay for first place. There is incentive to get first place, and it's not 10 the other way. It's only 4 with the Rays. So, that's where the focus would be. They have 35 games left. Okay. They're getting close to where their games are not even meaningful. If that gets to like 6 or 7 with Tampa Bay, and their pitching staff has been really suffering from injuries. So Fried is out. You had Rodon for a while, Cole for a long time. He's back. Rodon is back. Like, you just almost expect them to not bother with September if it stays like that. And that's no good. But we got to have Minnesota fans paying attention. That's what we got to have. Later. Brian Koziol next.
Preseason game number 2 of 3 coming up tomorrow afternoon for the Bills. They are on the road at the Cleveland Browns. Kickoff again at 1 p.m. and pregame right here on WGR. We'll get underway a couple hours before that at 11 a.m. And then during the game, come hang out as our Buffalo football gamecast will get started right at kickoff over on our YouTube channel, WGR Sports Radio 550. In terms of if starters are playing or not, no word yet, but based on comments made by both head coaches, yesterday's joint practice could very well have been the action the starters will see, and we'll get official word on that likely closer to kickoff tomorrow. But for more on yesterday's practice, Sal Capaccio has a piece up at our website, WGR550.com. Some news in the NFL. The Texans worked out 3 receivers today. They are signing 2 of them, Sterling Shepard and Zay Jones. And this does come after the season-ending injury to Jaden Higgins. And then tonight, 3 preseason games. 7 p.m. sees the Jets at Pittsburgh. Geno Smith will get the start at quarterback for New York, while Pittsburgh will have Will Howard under center. 7:30, Bryce Young gets another go as Carolina takes on Jacksonville. For the Jags, though, they have not yet announced if Trevor Lawrence will get the start tonight. And then at 9, both the Packers and Broncos are going to have their starting quarterbacks play to some extent. And in baseball, Bison's home versus the Iron Pigs, first pitch at 6:35. And in the majors, Yankees host the Blue Jays just after 7. And at 7:40, the Mets are at the White Sox. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Happy, the ball itself has its own energy, or life force, if you will. Its natural environment is in the home. So why don't you send them home?
It's Mike Schopp.
Why didn't you just go home? That's your home! Are you too good for your home? Answer me!
And the Bulldog.
That Happy Gilmore, he's a real crack up, isn't he? I mean, he's a hoot. You know, what was great today, one of his fans mooned me and had Happy written on his ass. Ha on the one cheek, and then, sure enough, PPY right there in the other.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Happy learned how to putt. Uh-oh.
On WGR, Sports Radio 550.
Why not a little golf? Fairly big tournament, stretch of tournaments, events on the PGA Tour going on now. That's a question I really do need to get an answer to. And Brian Kozigal, who joins me now on the Western Hotline, is the perfect person to ask. Brian, so how was the tour done getting this? I mean, it's been many years now, this playoff format. Does it work? They moved the PGA out of August, and that helped. If this wasn't the reason, I don't know, maybe it was, like sort of open the doors to these late season events, and then, they cut the field down gradually to get to the, the Tour Championship or whatever it's called in the end. Has it been, would golfers, players, media, fans, would most people consider it successful, this?
I think so, in the sense that there is some sort of season-ending event. I know that obviously golf still is going to be the 4 majors. Like, that's going to be number 1 for sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, I think in whatever order you want to put them in. And then probably, on years that maybe there isn't the Ryder Cup. And I think the Ryder Cup, even though I think it's a tremendous event, it's during NFL. And we know, at least in Western New York, like, it can get lost during a Bills weekend. So,
sure.
Even that necessarily, if you're a big golf fan, like that can get lost at times. So I think this playoff is something that they were looking for a void to have some sort of season-ending event. I think, as you mentioned, the shift in the calendar, we're going to move the Players' Championship to March and then put the PGA Championship in May. And then there's one big event every month. And then August is the 3-week playoff. They've tinkered with it over the years. They have had it go up to have as many as 120 in the playoff. Now this year it's 70. Last week was the first event, the St. Jude Championship in Memphis. That was the top 70. They cut it to 50 for this week, the BMW Championship in St. Louis, and then it'll go to 30 for the Tour Championship, as you mentioned. So they've also tinkered with the points and all that sort of stuff. They've also had it where, all right, well, if you come in first in points, you start at this score. You come in second in points, you start at this score, the staggered scoring. So they've gone back and forth with it. I don't think it's still exactly where they want it to be. And with the 2028 possible change in the calendar, with what's going to happen with the schedule and this new championship series and Challenger Series, essentially turning golf into maybe having some sort of demotion and delegation or regulation, so where you can, if you don't make the top, however many players they decide to do it, then you're in the secondary series trying to get up to the first series. So kind of similar to maybe what we see with soccer. That's coming, which means that they might be changing the playoff format again to include match play. So while I think it's gotten a little bit better, I don't know if it's still exactly what they want it to be. And players, I think, every year get asked about the format, and it seems to be mixed. Matt Fitzpatrick, who's from England, is like, well, you're asking a person from England. He's like, the regular season champ should be the champ. Why do we need a playoff? He's like, right, like soccer. That kind of thing. Right. So, it's 3 events, and they're huge money, and they're TV draws. I mean, I'm watching this week. I'm sure others are too. Even regular ESPN picks it up over, these first 2 days. So there's money to be made, and we all understand why there's playoffs, but it's still not perfect. I would say that. So I want to say it's better, but I don't think it's exactly maybe what they want it to be. Having it end before the NFL starts, to me, though, is smart on the calendar.
That's what they have to do. That's what they think they have to do. I mean, You said the money. I'm looking at the year-long schedule, and the majors come in around $20 million in purse. The Tour Championship next week is $40, which is way more than any other event, way more than the Masters or the U.S. Open. So, I mean, they'd have to put the money there to make it worth the players' while. I'm not so in tune with pro golf anymore after the last major that I really sort of sit down knowing what to expect. And then last week I turned it on and it was like every big name. Like, okay, well, that probably means we're in the playoffs here. Because, I mean, every big name was on the golf course, as is the case this week, as long as, they were to have qualified. Is there anything on your mind in terms of sort of the year in the sport to this point, or whether that would be something that comes down to what happens in the next couple of weeks? I mean, the majors so tend to dictate that. And, as we found out doing our pick 10 for the 4 major championships, this was like not an underdog year per se, but not an easy year to predict winners, as has been more the case in recent years. But apart from McIlroy at Augusta, and that was its own thing with his, winning back-to-back there after so many years of falling short at Augusta, Aaron Rai, Wyndham Clark, Ryan Fox are your 3 other major champions this year, and, not household names.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I think in some sense, it's highlighted by its first major, the Masters. I mean, for some people, that is the only maybe golf event that they will lock in on the entire season. I think all the majors have their allure to watching, but you mentioned it. Yeah, I mean, the other 3 names this year, I guess Clark now, who's won it twice, you can give him a little bit more love, but Rye and Fox, not that we should be surprised that they won. We always seem, there's going to be first-time major winners that happen every year. It's more often than not that a repeat, just because it's, there's 150 guys that show up at these events mostly. So there is a chance that you're going to get a first-time winner. I feel like, as the year goes on, the Masters and the U.S. Open to me are the big ones in terms of maybe the attention or the prestige that I've gotten. I love the Open and I love the PGA too, but I feel like they're a little bit more secondary in terms of the attention that it gets. This playoff at the end, it's great because it is all the big names participating. But do we still say the playoff winner has accomplished more, other than financial reasons, yes, than winning a major?
No.
Would you rather win the Masters or would you rather win the FedEx Cup Championship? Well, probably I think if you asked 100 golfers, you might get all 100 to say the Masters.
Yeah.
I don't know, right? I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. 100 for 100? I mean, I don't know if that ultimately in the end is what you would want the playoffs to be. But I think, we can't make a 5th major here, or we're not just going to manufacture one. What can we do? I think it's good. I mean, I think you're in August in Western New York, at the very least. We're still in the heart of the golf season. So for people that want to take in golf, I think this is a pretty good thing here. But for the year itself, I think, we still know Scheffler, when he plays great, is still going to be the best and still might end up winning this whole playoff event and still have a chance to be whatever the player of the year honor is worth to you.
I haven't had it on today. I did have it on yesterday, but today I went for the debut of the Premier League season. And so still time for me to flip over here Plenty of day left. And it seems like a great time for me to start playing golf tomorrow. My first time playing this year is tomorrow. Literally, I've not hit a ball all year. So what do you think about that, Brian? What should I expect? Like, I'm going to go low. That golf course is going to be defenseless.
Yes. Are you playing your own ball, or is this a scramble?
Scramble.
Event?
Yeah.
Scramble. Okay. Well, that's helpful for you then.
Yeah.
Because if you have a bad one, well, then it's not going to count anyway. Towards your team, obviously. So
that helps.
That's, to me, it's the lowest pressure situation you're going into. So expectations of, oh my God, I just took an 8 on a hole or something like that. Like, that's not going to happen. So you don't have to get down on yourself or anything like that.
I'd love an 8. I'd love an 8.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, Mike. I played with you a few times when you were playing. I think your expectations, you're good. You were a pretty good golfer. So, I mean, your expectations probably of what you do tomorrow, you're probably going to be mad with regardless because you haven't played all year. Because I think your standards are probably high for yourself.
Not anymore. I got to a point,
okay.
and I don't take this personally. I feel like you're probably have a really good disposition on the golf course, but I just came to think how stupid it feels to be mad at myself playing golf. Like, I definitely was that guy, and it turned me away from the sport. Not that it was the sport's fault, but it just feels like such a waste of negative energy to be. I think this is my dad in me, because he had a golf phase when I was an adult. He had a golf phase, and we would play. And Brian, literally, and maybe this is a little bit of a defense mechanism, right? Because he's not trying to shoot a score. Literally, the only thing that mattered to him on the golf course was how far he could hit it. That's it. He just wanted to hit it as far. That's what felt good to him. Just, I want to hit this ball as far as I can. That's what I'm here for. And, I mean, that's when I was playing to a handicap, and I'm like, Dad, I would just roll my eyes sometimes because, we couldn't play matches or anything really. He just didn't care about his score. But, as I get older, I sort of like that just that energy and you spend, I mean, if you're serious about it, and that's great. And I also enjoyed striving for breaking 80, which I did a half dozen times or so, I cared about that. But now if I'm going to play this often, which is hardly ever, I promise myself and you right now, there's just no way I'm going to be upset with anything.
Yeah, that's good. You mentioned your dad, and I'll flip it, but in some similarity, the fact that now I am a dad with a kid who loves to play golf has made me drop my ego, drop my frustration, because I'm like, well, I'm telling him all these things in terms of how he should behave on the golf course and why I love golf because of the sportsmanship and, keeping your own score and playing your own rules and don't get frustrated. You can't do anything about the last, like all these things that I'm telling him as a father, trying to be, giving him good advice. And I'm like, well, obviously now I have to model that as well.
That's right.
Like, I think that is honestly like really, really helped me maybe get past that frustration stage of you hit a bad shot, you have a bad hole. Like, how do you handle it? How do you react to it? And I definitely, for someone that plays a lot of golf, went through phases of like, you get so mad at yourself. And like, I didn't like it. You'd have these thoughts like mid-round of like, why, I shouldn't be playing this anymore. Like, why am I out here? Like, all I'm doing is getting frustrated and getting mad. And then, but I think dropping that sense of probably too, I have to just, there's definitely some ego involved. Like, look, in the end, really nobody cares about your score other than you. Right. So just however you want to react to it is how you can maybe make it happen here in the end. So I think, going out now and playing with my son, I feel like that has helped me because I'm almost more interested in his game than I am mine. So that changed my demeanor and I feel like helped me now be in a much better place if I'm having some sort of, what I would consider to be a frustrating hole or a bad round or something like that.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying this. It's such a great game for sort of self-evaluation and temperament and these kinds of things, and there is a range here we're talking about, from taking it very seriously to taking it not seriously at all. And there's no real bad answer in there. It's about you. But one of my favorite experiences on the golf course was a 3-day tournament with my friend Dylan in Orchard Park that we played in a few years. And the first time we played in it, we did really well, but I started to crack. By the last day, We're trying to qualify for the playoff, and I felt pressure, and it was hot, and I'm not in great shape, and it was my third day in a row playing. I was not used to that, and it got away from me toward the end. So that had all happened, Brian, and we still made it. And I had like 20 minutes to just change my shirt and splash some water on my face and try to, get over myself. And so I did that, and it was 8 teams of 2 that went out to the same hole, and it cut down to 4 or 2, whatever it was. Like, you had 16 guys teeing off on a hole together, and we drew first. And so I think it was alternate shot too, maybe. Anyway, I got on the tee, and I just had this thought, wait till these people see how great I am. And, I played all right from that point forward. I was kidding. I'm not that good, but it just relaxed me. Just like, try to relax here, whatever it takes. And there's another thing I'm thinking about that I've referenced many times in a Sports Illustrated article from a long time ago, a comment made by somebody who is the current president, actually. It was an article about Trump's golf designs and different things. And he had a line, Brian, where he said, something about like this topic. And he said, listen, no matter what happens on this shot, 6 billion people don't care. And, that you can do with that what you may. But I feel like that's another way of just sort of not stressing over a golf game.
Yeah, I agree. It is such a hard game. There's no other sport I feel like that a quarter of an inch. I mean, maybe hitting a baseball you could equate a little bit with it, but 1/8 of an inch on your club can mean so much difference. Where I think that everybody has to be less hard on themselves. If you are just an amateur golfer and you just play regularly here, like, and you're listening right now, like, I think here's our little soapbox today of don't beat yourself up, because it's so hard as it is. The things that we so cliche to say, but it's so true. Like the company, whoever you're playing with, family, friends, the outdoors, the scenery, like all that sort of stuff. Even whether you're playing a little match or a game or whatever, like all those sort of things, like soak all that in. Like that's the fun stuff of playing. And I try to remind myself that now here all the time.
The weather, the company, the geese, in some cases. Yes. Here's to that. Let's just you have a show tomorrow before we change the subject from golf?
Yes. And I have a golf football trivia question if you want to play along here for a minute too. But yes, tomorrow, tee to green, we're at Pendleton Creek, ironically enough, where you used to play. We'll be there from 7 to 8. Kevin Sylvester, who's doing the PGA Tour live stream on ESPN Plus, part of our team, he's going to be on with us at 7:30 to talk more about the playoffs and kind of break down what's happening here. As this week, again, it'll go from 50 to 30 for the final week. But we'll be at Pendleton Creek 7 to 8 tomorrow morning.
Very good. Look for my name on the wall. Not in the bathroom. On the plaques there.
I told you I have good fun with it. It's the Notre Dame play like a champion today. I tap it as I walk by it.
And you actually haven't quit the game. All right, let's hear this question.
Okay, so this is short, but I saw this stat on ESPN. I thought it was a great one. So Scotty Scheffler won last week. That was his 22nd win since 2022. So he's won 22 times. There's 2 NFL teams that have less wins in that span.
In the last 4 years?
So Scheffler's won 22 times in the last 4 years. There's 2 NFL teams that actually have less wins than Scheffler. Who are the 2 NFL teams? I'll give you one clue. One AFC, one NFC.
All right, I'll go Jets and...
That was my first guess.
Raiders? Is it Raiders?
No. I'm sorry, Raiders. Raiders have 21.
The Raiders are
there
right.
You go.
And then NFC, let's say... I don't want to say Arizona.
You're right, 19.
I'll say Arizona.
Yep.
They had a playoff year, but maybe that's more than 4 years ago now with Kyler.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I guess Scheffler's pretty good.
Yeah, he's good. And they had 2 college teams in this as well. Zach, you would probably love to have fun with this, but I'll just say them if you're interested. It's Boston College and Northwestern are the 2 college teams that have less than 22 wins.
In 4 years?
In the last 4 years.
There got to be more than 2. I mean, there are some pretty bad college football programs. There's so many teams. But okay.
That's maybe they were power conferences.
Maybe.
I'll have to look at that.
Okay.
Yeah.
How ready are you for hockey?
I mean, this weather would say I'm not, but the anticipation for the Sabres season is so different than what we've had in so long. Even last year, obviously with that season being so unexpected and so enjoyable in so many ways, like there was very, very little coming in, and it started so terribly. It felt like just rinse, repeat again with how it was going. I mean, we obviously got all the way to that December 9th date that we all referred to on the calendar where we thought, well, it's over. They're sitting in last, and it's early December. Like, we've seen this song before. And, when's the last time we came in thinking they were going to be good? I mean, it had to have been maybe during Eichel's time for a little bit there, maybe a season or two, when we thought we had high expectations, but it's been quite a while. In terms of the roster, we know it's not much different other than maybe the subtraction of Alex Tuck and the fact that they stayed pat in goal, which I'm kind of curious to see how that plays out. I mean, I guess you could say playing the odds that between Lyon and Luukkonen, one of them still can play good. So I guess that's the odds they're going with. But to me, going into the year, the fact that it'll feel like, hey, we have games that not only matter, but people are excited to watch right away to start on October 1st. Like, that's definitely the difference from years past.
Right. I made that point this week, too, that last year got so good, but not only was it not that right now, like last August, anticipation for it, but not even well until the season was it the case that people started to get really into it. I think it was probably halfway through the year, and they had that winning streak January and then forward from there to the point where, I mean, who would have thought you would have those outdoor canal side party scenes last year at this time? You know, just that seemed almost impossible to believe, but it happened. So soon enough. Brian, thank you. Off to the ballpark, did I hear?
Yep, going to the Bisons tonight. I just was thinking the calendar is running out, and I haven't been to as many as I would like to have, so this seems like an absolutely gorgeous day. So I'm like, that's the plan. The family's going to the Bisons tonight.
Very good. Have fun. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Mike.
Brian Koziol, Tee to Green tomorrow morning on WGR. Then we're doing the cool thing during the game with our guys on the stream talking about it as it plays out on the YouTube stream, not on the radio, but you can follow along with Bills Browns that way, which I think is an idea long overdue. And I know there are surely podcasts and different enterprises everywhere that do things like that. You know, watch the game with me. I wanted something like that 20 years ago here. Not that we had YouTube, but I just always wanted to be on the air during the game when we didn't have the games. But like, you couldn't do it. It's not, they don't let you. There was no chance of that. But I always thought that would be a fun listen, you know, like you don't necessarily want the announcers. You want your friends. I think maybe I remember David Wells talking about this once. Like, just, I don't know what the context was, the former pitcher. The same kind of thing. And now you have the Mannings who do it. And I have found that I got less into it after it arrived. I mean, just sort of gradually. I love the idea. I just didn't always want the conversation to be so far away from the game. And, you know, people complain about us in this way sometimes, you know, like when we're way off whatever, like the big sports topic should be, you know? And that's probably fair enough. But that's a cool way to watch the game, I think. And, you know, people that you like and trust talking about it as it plays out. I think it's great that we're doing that tomorrow. So check that out if you want. 803-0550 is the number. Got a little bit more baseball I want to get to, some football, of course, as well. Bulldog back on Monday. This is Mike Schopp on WGR.
Preseason game number 2 of 3 tomorrow afternoon for the Buffalo Bills. They are at the Cleveland Browns with kickoff at 1 p.m. and pregame right here on WGR. We'll get going a couple hours beforehand at 11 a.m. And then during the game, come hang out as our Buffalo Football Gamecast will get started right at kickoff over on our YouTube channel, WGR Sports Radio 550. No official word yet on if the starters will play tomorrow, and we likely won't find out officially until closer to kickoff. But based on the comments made by both head coaches, yesterday's joint practice could very well have been the action the starters would see. And for more on yesterday's practice, Sal Capaccio has a piece up at our website, WGR550.com. Around the rest of the league, we do have 3 preseason games tonight, and plenty of starters are expected to play tonight. 7 p.m. sees the Jets at Pittsburgh. Geno Smith will get the start for New York, while Pittsburgh is going to be going with Will Howard. 7:30, Bryce Young gets another go as Carolina takes on Jacksonville. For the Jags, though, we have not yet had any announcement if Trevor Lawrence will play. And then at 9, both Packers and Broncos will have their starting quarterbacks play to some extent. And then the Texans, they tried out 3 wide receivers today. They're signing 2 of them, Sterling Shepard and Zay Jones. And this comes after the season-ending injury to Jaden Higgins. Then in baseball, Bison's home to the Iron Pigs, first pitch at 6:35, while in the majors, Yankees host the Blue Jays at 7:05, and at 7:40, the Mets are at the White Sox. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
He's a low runner. You know, his center of gravity is really low. During the game last week, felt like he was driving the pile by himself. Like he's got a lot of power to him, and very excited to see what he can do these next couple weeks and the next couple games. But yeah, to see practice, defense wins the thud. Offense, you got to bring your shoulder pads too, and typically low man's going to win in those scenarios. And like I said, he's a pretty low runner.
Josh Allen on undrafted free agent rookie running back Ian Wheeler. Sal and I talked about him for a minute yesterday, right around this time. Sal said that Wheeler had a run where he just, Sal's word, trucked somebody. And I think I spent a few minutes, like 24 hours ago, sitting here talking about how there are sometimes players in the preseason that you didn't even know existed, and they make a mark. I think it's usually running backs or wide receivers. Through the years, like there's often one guy. Christian Wade, I referenced him yesterday, but had forgotten his name in the moment, the rugby player trying to make it in football. Wheeler is a curiosity for me. Ty Johnson has been hurt. James Cook probably doesn't play at all. Let's go see what Ian Wheeler looks like on the field. Sal said that he thinks he had passed Frank Gore Jr. How do you like Zay Jones getting his name back on the show there? Signing with Houston. He has stayed in the league, Zay Jones. Not big years or anything. One with Jacksonville was pretty good, 82 catches. That was in 22. But he has lasted. And I don't know, like these kind of signings, Sterling Shepard and Zay Jones, they felt Houston that they needed bodies. And it remains to be seen whether these guys even make the roster for that opener against the Bills. But Shepard I'm not serious about him or anything, but I always liked Sterling Shepard. It seemed like there was a good player in there. But he was hurt a lot and just, had his career kind of curtailed by that. Jones was an enigma here. The Bills traded him during the 2019 season to the Raiders. And since then, he's been with Jacksonville and even last year with Arizona. When I think about Zay Jones, I think about my friends who won the FFPC main event 2 years in a row. And that's an amazing feat. You have to be good enough to sort of qualify for the playoffs, and then you have to beat some number of other teams that also did that to win the $1 million as it happens. And I learned a lesson from these guys, and it involved Zay Jones. Because I've gotten teams to that sprint too. That's great. But have never come close to winning it. And what they knew to do, it doesn't have to work, but think about it this way. In that kind of tournament, you're competing with teams that have the same top players as you do very often. if Jonathan Taylor is the best running back of the year in fantasy football, then naturally his teams are more likely to make it to those last weeks than somebody who was injured, So you're going to see a lot of Jonathan Taylor, if that's the guy for this example. And what they figured out to do was, I don't think it was Jonathan Taylor, it doesn't matter, bench two presumably better players for Jerick McKinnon and Zay Jones in that particular week, just to be different. Because if I'm going to put the same guys as you on the field or I'm in the lineup and I'm behind you, then I'm not getting anywhere this way. I might move up the leaderboard a little bit, but I'm not like winning if I do that. So I wish I could remember who they benched. Maybe Nick or Sean is listening and would be able to tell me. But they benched, I'm sort of sometimes a slave to the app and just like, what is the more optimal play? And I just really didn't have the courage to go against that. But these guys did. And wouldn't you know, I think this is right, both McKinnon and Zay Jones that day had 3 touchdowns. And boom, they skyrocketed all the way to first place. I think that's the Hamlin year. I think that's the second year they won. I'm pretty sure of that. I want to call up that. It was Jacksonville and Dallas, if I remember right. And, yep, there it is. Week 15. That's right, because that tournament is weeks 15 through 17. And they started Zay Jones, who had sort of a okay season against Dallas. Jacksonville wins the game in overtime, 40-34. I mean, it sort of works because that probably was expected to be a shootout, like a lot of other Dallas games. And he caught 3 touchdowns in that game. Nothing in overtime. They won on a pick 6 in overtime as I'm looking at it. And McKinnon, I think McKinnon might have scored in overtime. How do you like that? That's running pretty pure. When you make 2 plays like that and both games go to overtime, Chiefs, there it is, Chiefs, Texans. I can't say I remember this better than they would, where it's 2 touchdowns. Nope, it's 3. No, doesn't matter, but I just want to be right. I guess it's 2 and a 2-point conversion. What did McKinnon give them that day? Nick's driving around. He's talking about me? 10 for 52 and a touchdown, 8 for 70 and a touchdown receiving. Nice. So, might not apply to your leagues, but if you were to play in a tournament like this, and I play a lot and should have already known that, if, you get close to having a real chance of winning. And they went all the way to the top, survived the last 2 weeks. They had the Hamlin incident, and that game gets canceled, and they won. So I remember they had that game against the Bills-Bengals game, they needed to fade Devin Singletary. Not get a big game from Devin Singletary. And the game didn't get far enough along for it to ever really be, close or known or anything like that. Zay Jones, good luck to him. Maybe the Bills end up facing him in the opener, or Sterling Shepard. Houston is down Jaden Higgins out for the year, and still Tank Dell, it seems. So it's Nico Collins and, I don't know, Xavier Hutchinson. There'll be other guys. It makes sense that they went outside. I think, some people were speculating a trade, but no trade. They did this instead. So far, at least. We got a company email this morning with the sad news that our former colleague and really a legend in the game, Sandy Beach, had died last week. He was 86. I don't have many, unfortunately for me, too many personal stories with him, but I'll say a couple things. First, I think anybody would say that knew him or knew of him. I mean, they don't get much bigger in radio than Sandy Beach. He's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, for starters. As a DJ in the, decades ago. I remember when I was in high school, so late 80s, I was in an internship program, and when I was working at Channel 2 once or twice a week as a high school intern. And Sandy was a speaker at an event where all the interns were there, and he was really fun and funny And, he's such a big guy, too, if you didn't know. Sandy Beach was really tall and big. And so a real presence. And he had a gift for conversation, and always seemed to do it with a smile on his face. He was like that. At least that was and I think a lot of people who knew him would say the same thing. Those were mostly my interactions with him. It was never anything else. We didn't really see each other that often. He was on a different time slot, and not always, but didn't really spend a lot of time with him. I remember that our old boss, who has recently left our company, who was very close to Sandy, and he and I had many great conversations. Just loved to talk about radio, and even though I worked for him until just like a month ago, we always had like very nice, easy conversations. Tim Wenger. And Tim wrote in this email today to tell us all that Sandy had died, about how he, when he started here, he went to get him from Milwaukee and brought him to Buffalo. And I think they were close friends. But he would tell me, and we're all different in this way. Bosses are different and hosts are different. He would tell me that Sandy always liked to sit with him before his show and just sort of talk about what he wanted to talk about. And I am really not like that. I've had to do it at times, and I certainly would do it if asked, but I'm more sort of spontaneous. I have my own process and my own notes, but I don't really have that, I guess that I have to say interest in that. But I'm an employee. But Tim would say that Sandy loved to do that. He wanted sort of almost like it was warming up, that he would, sit in Tim's office and talk about his ideas and different things. And so different approach, but just a great broadcaster, a legend, and very sad to hear about his death today. I guess it was last week, but we found out today. So, sad news in this building. I'm Mike Schopp. Bulldog is off today. He'll be back with me on Monday. Take a break here. This is WGR. Saw a tweet today from The Athletic, a ranking of theirs, the top 25 NFL players that are 25 and under. It may not surprise you to learn that there are no Bills on this list. I looked through the Bills roster to see who might be their best player, 25 and under, and I think it's probably Cole Bishop. But how good is he? I mean, I'm not even sure we really know yet. But this is a list of stars, superstars around the league. I mean, George Pickens is number 25. Drake London is number 24. I mean, these are star receivers in the NFL. In fantasy, they're both second-round picks or even or maybe early third, but, 1,000-yard players. And, of course, need it be said, it's not like you have to have the youngest team to win. I mean, the Bills, not to make an excuse for them or for Brandon Beane in particular, as I've said, I think it should be said when analyzing his work, it's only been go for it type teams for like the entire time he's been here. You don't have there's no rebuilding moment with the Bills where you might add a first round pick and just be able to or draft earlier. That's even easier where you're drafting in the top 10 because you went 7 and 10 or something like that. And all right, well, we need to fix something. They've tried to fix their problems just while staying on the road. They're trying to fix the car without pulling over. And that leads to that you wouldn't have as much claim to like these 25 and under stars. Some are on good teams. I mean, the Lions have Penei Sewell at number 1 on this list. They have Jahmyr Gibbs is on this list, Detroit. The Ravens with Kyle Hamilton, that was not a high draft pick. And, there are both. There are examples of early picks and not. But there are no Bills here. I mean, who would, if not Bishop, who would be their top-ranking player 25 and under? I mean, guys that have – Keon Coleman is 23. It better not be Keon Coleman. You're talking about players that have been drafted in the last 3 years. And they haven't really hit. I mean – I don't think Benford is even – I think Benford is older than this now. He has to be. That's the 22 draft. He has to be. Hairston, last year's draft, Benford is 25. Okay, then let's say Benford. It wouldn't be Cole Bishop over Benford, right? He'll be 26 in a month to the day as I'm looking at it. But he's still 25, so let's not rush him. Yeah, he would be the answer. And he's not in the top. I hope I didn't miss this. I want to make sure I read this again. No, I don't see his name. Quarterbacks. 1, 2, 3, 4. C.J. Stroud is still 25? Not older than that? I guess. He's on this list. 24. He's still only 24, C.J. Stroud. Drake May, number 11. Jaden Daniels, 13. Stroud, 19. Caleb Williams, 21. That's low on Caleb Williams, I think. We started today with another round of division winner parlays. People are calling in. Am I forgetting somebody? Did I make a mistake here? Maybe I did. Because that's the only reason why that would be happening right now is if I said something wrong. Which, thank you. If I'm being corrected, thank you. Caleb Williams, 24. We started today with another round of division winner parlays as I was, ramping up for Sammy P earlier. And Chicago is the third choice. People don't like the Bears to repeat in the NFC North because generally they think they were lucky. Was it Mike Tanier this week, Aaron Schatz, other guys that sort of come at you with that sort of data-driven approach to predictions, that the Bears were just fumble luck, turnovers, like not quite as sturdy as you'd want them to be to, win again. They went 11-6 too. They didn't go 14-3. 11-6 was good enough. Detroit fell off, and they ended up coming in above Green Bay. Did I mess up? Is that why people called? No. Okay, good. Well, that's interesting. There must have been another reason. So Chicago ends up as the third favorite in that division. And I don't know. I can see them being better, though, the Bears. People don't like their defense, I guess. But Williams going into year 3, he was really good last year. And I could see that continuing to trend up. I don't know with the Packers. Every year it seems it's the same thing with the Packers. They're tough. They're okay. They're good. They're a playoff team. But there's been no real breakthrough yet. A little bit like the Bills, but just not as good. And so I'm reluctant to pick them. But they're, again, a shorter favorite than the Bears are. And Detroit is the favorite. The Bills get Detroit for that home opener on the Thursday night in week 2. And interesting that they are the favorite with how they slipped last year. But I get it. Campbell, Goff, Gibbs, St. Brown, Laporta, usual suspects, Penny Sewell. A lot of reason to like the Lions. Just last year was just a fluke or something. They're the favorite in the NFC North. Not that there's a big gap. I mentioned Sam Panayotovich. He was with me earlier today talking a little college football odds stuff and more. That conversation is coming up after the update here on WGR.